designated to replace Willie Williams as LA's police chief, will begin restructuring his command staff. And it's going to be much cooler today than yesterday, and also be even... Good morning, Brian. Welcome to the Front Page.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, you've written a book, One Time, the story of a South Central Los Angeles police officer. In the thumbnail sketch, what is this book all about?
Well, basically, the book parallels my experiences as a police officer. I wrote the book because a lot of my coworkers are having problems with the police department. They're very unhappy with the police department, like myself. And I think that blacks come on the job with unreasonable expectations. I think that white officers come in accepting the structure of LAPD and wanting to promote within the structure, while most black officers, especially natives of Los Angeles, want to come in and make a change because they've experienced LAPD at its worst. They know what it's all about, and they come in with wanting to change the system, and basically that's very hard to do.
Now, your frustrations were these when Dal Gates was the boss, or was it when Willie Williams, or was there any improvement? Or
I came in when Chief Gates was the boss, and I don't see much of an improvement. I didn't see much of an improvement with Willie Williams. I think his heart may have been in it, but I don't think he had the resources, the people behind him, and the knowledge of Los Angeles to actually make a change.
What do you think was his biggest problem, though?
Well, one, he didn't have the respect of his officers. I saw a lot of officers that made fun of him because of his size, because of basically his personality. Police officers have big...
So they just didn't respect him, man.
That's correct. Police officers have big egos. They respect people who have big egos like them, and Willie Williams was a soft-spoken person, and he just didn't gain their respect. I know that won't happen with Bernard Parks.
It seems like Bernie already has the respect.
Well, but Bernard Parks came into this position with a reputation, and I know that he's a strong person, and he's basically the epitome of LAPD, of what LAPD should be. He grew up in Los Angeles. He has actually experienced the problems of Los Angeles. He's not an outsider. He's not someone who drives in 70 miles into LA to try to help the people. He's actually here and has actually experienced, and I think that he's probably one person who could empathize with my book, because I'm sure he's went through a lot of things, a lot of hardships on the job.
Were you surprised that he was selected by the mayor?
I was actually surprised, but he deserved the job. He deserved the job before Willie Williams, before Chief Williams got the job. And I know that when I first came on the job, I had aspirations of going into crash, to be a crash officer, and I was probably one of the most outstanding officers at Southwest Division. And when my opportunity came to promote and go into crash, I didn't get the spot. Someone who was of lesser quality got it, and that's on a lower level. And I know Bernard Parks, he experienced it at the highest level, wanting to be the chief and deserving to be the chief, and he didn't get it the first time around.
So you're saying it's really, the evaluations are very subjective?
Yes, they are. They really are. It's basically, you have to be one of the boys. If you come into the department not wanting to give up your social values or not wanting to conform, your chances of promoting are very difficult.
I'm going to ask you this. You're from L.A., you grew up in L.A. What made you want to be a police officer?
Well, I tried different things. I graduated from college. I wanted to be a buppy for a minute, and I worked at a public relations agency. I was assistant manager of a bank on 29th and Crenshaw, and everything I did within the community, it seemed that crime somehow intervened and had a big part in it. And I started meeting police officers when I was at this bank on 29th and Crenshaw. We got robbed almost every other week, or someone in front. I started meeting police officers and started really getting into, looking at the job. And I thought that I could promote within the job and really make a difference.
All right, your book, is it fictional, or is it sort of your life story from joining the force?
It's fiction, but it's based on fact. It parallels my life as a police officer. I'd probably say 90% of it is true, and probably the other 10% I couldn't say it was true.
Names have been changed to protect?
Names have been changed to protect the innocent and myself and my job for a while.
Are you getting harassment over this book?
Very much so. The officers seem to like it. The patrol officers like it. They applaud me because I spoke out. It's a very daring book, bold, but I'm in the midst of an internal affairs investigation. Because of the book? Exactly. Just because of the book.
Well, what is it in the book that bothers the folks down at Parker Center?
Well, basically, there are several officers who have written books. Most of them have written books. They're sugar-coated. They talk about how officers don't beat up on people, officers don't use physical force, and basically their books say that LAPD has a bad rep. My book tells how it is. I've used physical force before, and my partners have, and I basically explain the story why I had to use it, how I felt after I used it, and basically the department just wants to look past that, and they don't want that because they don't want anyone to say that because other officers will maybe jump on the bandwagon, and you'll have all sorts of books that come out.
I'm curious, why when you use physical force, why did you use it? Can you relate to us?
Well, when I came on the job, like I said, my expectations were somewhat unreasonable. I figured, like most young officers, most black young officers, that being black was enough. Being black and growing up in LA was enough. I mean, basically, there are some people who do not like the police and will never like the police, whether or not you're black or white. Black police officers in South Central LA get treated worse than white officers. I've had partners who will talk to black people like a dog, and they'll respond to them, "Yes, sir," and I'll be polite, and they'll curse me out and call me an Uncle Tom. And, I mean, it basically boils down to some people just do not like the police, and they do not want to go to jail.
Did you feel like you sold out by joining the force?
Sometimes I do. When you become a police officer, you have to give up a part of yourself. I remember when there was a demonstration before Geronimo Pratt was released, and it was in Leimert Park. There was a march down Crenshaw. And being a police officer, you have to give up part of yourself, and I realized that unlawful protest is a part of black culture. It's what we are. But as a police officer, you have to, you have to protect the law, and you realize that these people are demonstrating for a just cause, but they are breaking the law, and even though you may be for that, you still have to protect the law.
But does this happen with white officers as well? Are they blue first and white second?
I believe.
From when you've been dealing with them?
I believe so, because they don't have the issues that we do. They really do. They don't have the Geronimo Pratts and the Rodney King incidents. They don't have that.
Well, was that a major change, turning point in the LAPD history, the Rodney King beating? Because up until then, in the African-American community, we knew that happens, that's a regular basis. You get your butt kicked by the LAPD or the Sheriff's Department. You get stopped for no reason at all. It happens all the time to us. But for most of white America, until they saw it on the tape, they didn't believe it.
That's true. They didn't believe it, and once they saw it on tape, most of them really didn't care either after they saw it. What changed LAPD's attitude is not the actual beating, it's the officers that went to prison.
Punishment.
The punishment. No officer wants to go to prison. That's our worst fear. You don't want to wind up in some prison, and you're a police officer. And until then, police officers have felt that they can do whatever they want to do. They can use force and falsify a report to justify it, and everything's okay. The Rodney King beating showed that you can be punished, and after that, officers did not want to do that anymore.
Were the officers that you were around, were they, after the King beating, were they saying that it was justified? Were they all in favor of Coon and Powell and the rest of that gang did?
It was mixed. It was mixed feelings. Many of them felt that that Rodney King did deserve it. Most police officers feel that some suspects deserve to get their butt whipped if they don't comply.
If they lead you on a chase, you deserve to get whooped. Is that?
Sometimes it happens. It happens.
Because I spoke to an officer, and he said the adrenaline is just racing. Mm-hmm. So after you catch the suspect, you just want to wail on him just for making him sweat. That's
true. In my book, I talk a lot about pursuits. Since I've been in Southwest, I've been in a lot of vehicle pursuits, a lot of pursuits of men with guns, kidnappers, all that kind of stuff, and it is really hard to stop. And I believe that there aren't really a lot of bad officers. There's a lot of bad partners, because someone has to maintain their cool all the time, and you do get caught up in it. And that's basically what the job is all about, is chasing people and getting into confrontations. Without the fight, without the threat of death and the gun, you're basically a roving secretary taking reports.